So, hey everyone, happy Friday. We'll do the intro in just a little bit, but in the meantime, peep that awesome bit refill hat. Shout out to Bit Refill, by the way. They have never, I would say they never sponsored, they never actually sponsored the podcast, but I did have a referral like in earlier iterations that I used to show. But I will shill Bit Refill any day because they work incredibly well for living on crypto for people like me, for people like you, for people like everyone. So shout out to Bit Refill people. Ooh, you're quiet now. I can't hear you anymore.
Shout
Oh,
out
there
to
we
Bit
go.
Refill. Yeah, I mean, these guys actually, in the early days when I was living on Bitcoin and crypto, they were the go to spot. So, Sergey, Sam, or anybody else over in the offices, if you ever watch the show, sponsor this boy.
Nice. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I mean, as I'm sure I'll talk about in just a couple of minutes. I'm sponsored by Coin ATM Radar because they came to me. Um, I wouldn't mind throwing in, if Bit Refill wants to throw me a thing too, I wouldn't mind showing them, and you know, it's just like two back to back ads at the beginning of something like this is just not gonna work. So I would have to do some mid roll type thing, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Hey, mid rolls aren't bad. I mean, you got to pay the bill somehow. So,
yeah, I think that they have to be short though. I think because like some people will be like, people usually skip from the video to like the beginning, like the actual beginning stuff. If they're like, at least I do, I'm sure. Or if they just turn it on and they're like in a shower or listening to something or they're doing whatever, they'll just like let it run through the initial read or whatever. The mid roll thing, when it interrupts some good conversation, does annoy me. So
yeah.
I have to figure out how to do it. Like obviously with interviews, I'm gonna have to like have a spicy enough one and make sure to keep it brief. Like brief, keep to your time. In shows like
Okay.
this, in fact, that
So
gave me
you
an
could do
idea.
one of
Okay,
these.
so
Okay. So
here's
you
what I'm
could
gonna
do
do.
one of these. You
I'm
hold
going
on.
to I'm okay. I'll let you
No,
say
no,
it
look,
first.
okay. If you ever watched Idiocracy, which I'm sure you have, and everybody else has,
No, I've
right?
watched stuff from it, but I'm very familiar. I
All
haven't
right.
actually watched the whole thing.
So you can always go like this. You say your line or whatever comment that you're going to make, and then you say sponsored by this, company.
Yeah,
So like afterwards, telling you about how amazing BitRefill is, I can say, this was sponsored by BitRefill. And then afterwards, you give your retort, sponsored by BitRefill, and just keep going. It's not a mid roll; it's like mid sentence, and
yeah, yeah. I can't believe what a evil status Saylor is sponsored by me. Like, I
like
wonder.
this comment is sponsored by MicroStrategy.
That would be funny, but actually, um, I as a random idea, and I'm gonna just let you guys know for whoever's watching the pre show portion. I'm gonna do a freebie impromptu mid roll ad for Bit Refill on this show today. And I don't have anything prepared for it because they don't sponsor me. I'm not going to do this. And I'm just going to find a way to sneak it in and just make it an organic part of conversation. I'll just find a way to get it to that point, and it'll be up to you guys to be. This is a game for you guys, right? Pay attention to everything that's being said and see if you can guess when I'm going to launch it on you guys. When is the conversation
Sponsored
building
by
up?
BitRefill.
Yes. When is that going to be? When is that going to go? And I will, of course, send it to the Bit Refill people and see what they say about it. Yeah.
Sponsored by BitRefill.
All right. So we got a bunch of people in the InLeo Threadcast, which is great. We have let me check the YouTubes. A couple people YouTubes,
The YouTube.
and then of course Odyssey is always just there. If you're watching on Odyssey, let me know if the sound's okay because it's always 50-50 if the sound works and I have to reset the stream. In fact, the one comment I always say in the Odyssey thing is, "How's the sound?" Just so people can say. All right, cool. Let me roll the intro and let's get going. So, hey everyone, happy Friday. Happy earlier Friday for a lot of people. This is the Digital Cash Rundown, episode 174. It's a lot of episodes. I'm joined by the one and only rarest of passengers, the one and only Esteban Valdez. How's it going, man?
Hey, what's up, dude?
Just whirlwind of stuff. And I can't blame anyone for being too busy or overwhelmed sometimes because anytime there's extra stuff to do, I sign up for it. I do it, and I don't have to, so it's my freaking fault. In fact, I have about 3 days over the weekend to start and finish a 1 to 3,000 word article for Vlad Kostia for his privacy magazine. I'm just pushing off to the last bit. So Vlad, if you're watching this, which you probably have better things to do, I'm working on it. I'm not just ghosting you. I will answer you in a little bit. So yeah, that's kind of my world. How have you been over in your neck of the woods there?
Uh, Pretty good. I have been writing a lot, um,
Hmm.
putting together a lot of new productions. Just development stuff in Hollywood land without being in Hollywood, and trying to write some more content for the newsletter, and maybe switching over to Twitter Premium Plus, so I can start writing articles there potentially.
Yeah,
I'm still on the fence. Stripe, the payment processor always kind of irks me the wrong way, but
of course.
whatever. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, things are good. Hanging out here in Osaka, which is a pretty pretty chill place, I gotta say.
yeah. I've heard. Never been to Japan yet. I will go at some point, but I've heard people who have been saying that Osaka's got a very different vibe from kind of like the Tokyo, Kyoto kind of areas. Like much more of like friendly, chill. It's a less uptight vibe for sure. Would you say
Hundred
that?
percent, 100%. Like we just came from an event. It was really simple, laid back. People are very friendly
Mm-hmm.
and willing to chat with you. Uh, One person I was talking with earlier, she was like, "Oh no, this Osaka is what Japan is supposed to be:
Mm-hmm.
friendly, approachable people. It's not this cold, distant type of vibe that you get in Tokyo, because Tokyo now is more, cosmopolitan, right? Everybody from all over the place is there, and it's a lot more. I don't want to say standoffish, but people definitely like to keep to themselves. So
Yeah.
you do get a little bit of that coldness sometimes. And man, just Tokyo is just loaded with people, loaded. And Osaka's just got this. You feel like you can breathe and walk
Mm.
around and not have to, rush everywhere. But I dig it. It's a nice change of pace. So,
Yeah. I never. So like I grew up in the literal wilderness, like without electrical grid and things like that. And so like up until I was like 16. So when I kind of got out of there, started
mm,
traveling around, I always thought, oh, I like I like the big city or like more of a big city vibe. And I used to live in DC and work in DC and just not own a car, and I just like jumping on the metro to go where I wanted to go. And I thought like, oh, this is like the better life. And now I do like the comforts of civilization, where like I do like to be able to get a mean espresso and not take too far to get there. Those kinds of things. But I'm very much into like the this must be what aging is really. It's just like I just like peace and quiet. It's so great. Just like the nice vibe and just the fast vibe of things. Like it's like Grand Theft Auto every time I go to Boston because like you know there's a little bit of an exhilaration for like 30 seconds, and then I'm just like, can you not? Can the whole city just not? Like I'm not. I don't want to deal with this right
yeah,
now. Like kind of thing.
I get you. I mean, I grew up in the city, so I'm used to it. And
Uh
then,
huh.
we got a house and there's a bit of a yard. And prior to COVID, we tried to do this whole like homestead thing, growing food in the backyard and all that crap. And after a few years, it's just like, oh, the potatoes come out like, that big. And we have ants everywhere. There's all kinds of problems. Just, I don't have time for this either. I, I like supermarkets. I like going to places where I can get
Hmm.
food pretty easily, and it's just the lifestyle is very different.
Yeah.
And what I
You
found
don't want to
interesting
be a
is like when
subsistence farmer. You just don't. No one does.
no, it
Because
sucks. I
that's what
mean,
that literally was my parents ran a cattle ranch and grew their own food in the garden. That was my whole childhood, was this subsistence farmer bullshit. And it just at some point they just were like, you know what, we're gonna start having hunters come for like deer and turkey and javelina hunters and make some actual money and like not be broke and starving all the time. So yeah, subsistence farming is like a great LARP, but and currently there is a garden that the missus has in the backyard, and there's a lot of our own food that we grow and eat, and sometimes everything is like local or from our own yard, and that's great, but it's a LARP. And I know it's a LARP, and I'm
yeah.
fine admitting that it's a LARP. I do like my grocery
But
store
all
down
right,
the street.
so yeah, so here was the thing for me. So I went on carnivore, right? And my thing is like I don't have room for a fucking ranch. You know, where so
Yeah,
this whole like growing food in the back, it's like it sounds nice, but it's total bullshit. You
for
know,
meat,
and
it
then
doesn't
plus
work.
no, and then I love working like we were working with the beef initiative for quite some time. You know, through Bitcoin Day, and I love those dudes, but sometimes it's like, look, I don't want to have to wait, you know, for the cow to mature, for you to slaughter and all. Like, I want a burger now,
Yeah.
you know? So, God bless the division of labor and the concepts
Yes.
of being able to split that. So,
Yeah.
supermarkets are great.
You
Fucking
just gotta have your
Is
guard up
amazing.
to go slip those seed oils and they throw at you. Whoa, whoa. You just gotta get out. That's the hard part.
Yeah,
But you know,
but I'll say this: like when traveling around too, you know, because we were prior to being in Osaka, we were over in Seoul,
mm-hmm.
and super mega city, but it's quiet, right?
Weird.
And dude, it's quiet and it's super accessible to nature. You know, you go 30 minutes on the metro and you're in the mountains. And you can go for a hike, and then 30 minutes another way, and you're in the heart of like the fashion district. You know, and then another 30 minutes, you're getting like some of the best barbecue that you could get. And I ate myself stupid and
Of
didn't gain
course.
weight. Like I've lost weight along the way. You know, this has been crazy. So I mean, like, I'm sorry, the farming LARP. It sounds great, but I'm not a
Yeah.
fucking pioneer out in the Wild West. You know, trying to trek all the way out to Portland or something. It's like, dude, I live in the modern age. Life is on the internet now. Like, there's
Yeah.
convenience. Let,
I
let's accept the progress for what it is. You know.
yeah, and like we do like for the most part, it's I mean we don't have chickens, but chickens are the limit, right? You have a garden and you have chickens, and that's anything
Yeah.
more than that is like a little ridiculous. Now we do some weird things, like every once in a while make our own butter from just some milk that we get. Just, but it's not like all. It's just every once in a while. Hey, let's make our own stick this one time, or things like that. And oh, let's make beef tallow candles just because like, but just to like have. But it's a LARP. Is my point. This is not a light. This is
You're
not
there
how you
churning
sustain.
butter while scanning a QR code,
Yeah.
to buy the latest from Bit Refill.
So yeah, we thought we were going to be cypherpunks. Turns out we just were steampunk. You know, where we're just like wearing medieval armor and shit with like glowing electronic thingy. Like, yeah, just steampunk. It's very fun. All right,
Yeah,
I think we're gonna bore our people talking too much about this stuff. Now we've rolled the intro, but it is. We'll just transition to shill o'clock, not the bit refill shill o'clock. That's coming up. Oops, wait, this one. All right, so this podcast is sponsored by Coin ATM Radar. They're very nice to me. When buying crypto with cash, an ATM is much more reliable and safer than meeting some random person in a random place. And when I was just over in Croatia, I went right to the Mall of Split and found a Coin ATM Radar ATM and sold some Dash for cash that I use because Croatia is a very cash-heavy society. There's a lot of cash-only places, and I needed it. So anyway, and unlike an exchange which could freeze your account, hello FTX, you truly own all the crypto you buy. With Coin ATM Radar, you could find crypto ATMs and other services where you can buy or sell cryptos for cash. On the website, search by coin address. If the ATM supports selling as well as buying, you can also search by geo area, country, state, city. And you can also check and compare actual current fees at different ATMs. Find out more, go to coinatmradar.com or coinatmradar.com. Good people. And yeah, actually, I have to check back in with them because I haven't talked to them in like almost like 8 months. So, and I haven't even, I know that they paid me for a while. I assume they're still paying me. I have to check my wallet or whatever, but it doesn't matter. Give them some freebies. They've been nice to me. If they decided to discontinue, which, you know, that would be hilarious if it's like the last 3 months they've just not been sponsoring me and I didn't check my email and I'm just running off of that.
Helping a defunct service. Gotta love
Yeah.
it. But that's the crypto world, man. I mean, you have services that are here today, gone tomorrow,
Oh,
and
you know
everything
what's funny
changes.
about
So,
that? Um, well, all right, I don't mind talking a little smack because the odds of anyone related to this actually seeing the show and having like a problem with it are very low. But I went to Consensus whenever that was, June, May, something like that, in Austin,
mhm,
and there's a big booth, big green booth, said stable.com. Stable.com, like a new stablecoin product, and they were like, "Oh, we're gonna do we're basically USDC competitors and stuff, but like
mhm.
we get way better like fees and things like that and all this stuff." And I'm like, "Cool,
Right.
get in on the ground floor with these guys. Love to have them integrate into stuff." And they were giving out some swag, so the one pair of sunglasses I own today, I only own one, and it's the stable.com free sunglasses I got from the booth. And I wear those all over the place. And then they were hard to get a hold of. A few months later, I got in contact with them, and they're like, "Oh yeah, let's set up a call." And then that was like late August, early September, something like that. And then I just like haven't heard back from them really. I'm like, huh. And then I go to stable.com, like and the website's broken. I'm like, oh, did they get shut down? They gave up. So yeah, it could be one of those things. I'm still wearing their swag though. Just like if Coin ATM Radar doesn't pay me anymore for some reason, and I forget to stop shilling them, I'll probably accidentally
Right.
shill them for years now, even if they went away tomorrow. But I will still wear the stable.com sunglasses.
Yeah, it's kind of like Pay with Moon. I remember it was at one of the conferences, and I got a whole bunch of their stickers. And I was just like slapping it everywhere, and had written about it on the newsletter a few times, trying to help promote. Um, and then within like a couple of months, I remember it was at one meetup, and I was talking to a bunch of people about it and like how
Yeah,
I've been using it to do this, etc. And someone's like, "Yeah, so I went to this Pay with Moon, and like the service is not working. Like they're not functioning right now."
they're
And it's
shut down.
been years since. Yeah, well, they didn't shut down. They just kind of like
Yeah,
went quiet, and
but they're
then
back.
they came back. Yeah, they're back, but it's a little weird. Like there's some tweaks to the service, and
Hmm.
I'm like, okay, regulations are killing everything. Yeah,
Yeah, I am doing not just that. They're so behind the scenes stuff. I'm talking to them right now about business stuff. So hopefully everything goes well. But yeah, it's brutal.
they
Um,
were they were really like cutting edge because it was great to have a card that you could swap into fiat, and then when you were done, they could give you the dust back if you needed it. So it was a
yeah,
way to like zero out without having to just keep like have a bunch of gift cards and prepaids with 10 cents on it that you can't use.
hmm yeah. I mean
Sucks.
that's brutal. The refund thing because they are legally unable to do reloadable no KYC cards, and so
Yeah.
that's their version of like reloadable. You just delete it and make a new one. I'm like, oh, that's a killer feature, and that's just all they got. So, unfortunately, that's an interesting thing about a card. In a second, let me just check something out. But yeah, they're here today, gone tomorrow. The one thing that persists is pump and fiat and statists. So, with that being said, might be a good time to transition to our favorite Mr. Man over here. So I can't play the Saylor clip live on air, or I don't know if I can. The point is, I've done that before because it's a great experience.
I don't want
And it,
my
yeah,
ears to get cancer anymore.
but
I'm
you
good.
get flagged anyway. But yeah, you don't want to hear this. Heard a dollar in
No.
the corner. I have to say, in simultaneous criticism and credit to Saylor, this guy, he's one of the ugliest and dumbest sounding dudes in crypto. But yet he's leveraged that to somehow be like a popular face. Like just the way he's very smart, clearly, and he dumbs it down to the point where it sounds really dumb to me, but other people are like, "Oh yeah, cyber hornets, that makes sense." And then they like it, and they also look at his like ugly face. They're like, "Oh, if that guy's rich, I could be rich. I look about like what he looks like." It's very inspirational that someone who just like looks and sounds like that can like make to the top. But anyway,
See,
yeah.
that's the thing. I mean, I'm not going to say anything on the comment other than Harvey Weinstein. I mean, Harvey Weinstein made people money, and that dude's an absolute troll.
Hmm.
Sailor, you know, whatever on the looks, but I think all his word salad, made people feel smart. And for me,
Yes.
like when I hear him talk, I'm just like, dude, you shit out nonsense. You know, like God wasted teeth. God wasted a good asshole by putting teeth in your mouth. It's just
Yeah,
it's
that's a good.
terrible. It's such a waste.
Uh, it it's so funny. It's just so funny that he's smart, right? In that
Is he?
he's
I don't think
yes.
so.
Well, here's the thing.
I mean, I think he's a
I,
math nerd, fine, right? But I
no,
mean,
that's not what
I
I
mean,
meant. The way he resonates with idiots is not an accident. He didn't just fall into this. Like he figured it out. He figured out I have to say like you gotta like it's gonna go up for like these super dumb simple concepts enough so people understand it and stick to that. And then when they're like,
no,
"Is this
okay,
why am I
he's the
listening to this
equivalent.
guy?" And then he throws the word salad, and they're like, "Oh, this guy's so smart." And smart people don't think that, but he's the tard
No,
whisperer,
he's
you
the
know?
equivalent of the Big Bang Show, right? Or the Big
Yes.
Bang Theory. That's what he is, right? He appeals. He
How much
comes up
money did
with
that
this
show make?
persona. It made money.
Just there you
It
go.
made
Smart,
money.
smart.
But I mean, like the average, like I mean, the way the focus groups and the show came out, like it made people feel smart, even though the show itself was very basic and rudimentary, right? And it's
Uh
like,
huh.
oh well, Sheldon said this. There you go. Michael Saylor is Sheldon Cooper, you know,
I
and
got listen. I had many years ago, I had one of my exes was like, that's how I knew it was like not gonna last. Is when she's like, "Oh, I love this is my favorite show," and I'm just like, "Oh, well, nice knowing you. Like this is not gonna be around for very much longer." Yeah, makes sense. But anyway,
yeah.
so what Sailor actually said, and
Okay,
people
okay, okay.
say you took him out of context, blah blah blah. There was a greater
No,
institutional context, but this is a.
no.
Let me check how long this clip is. It's like 2.5 minutes or 5 minutes. It's a chunk of time, and then basically, and I haven't watched much other than a few of these clips. I have to first give props to the interviewer. I think she does a great job. She presents well, but she also asks some like tough questions in a nice, friendly, well, good way. So props to her. And she kind of pushed him on
Yeah.
this whole like self custody thing, and he goes into this snide rant about no self custody sucks. Basically, he's like, no, you don't need to do that. Trust the institutions, and then basically just says these paranoid crypto anarchists. Which, when he said that as an insult, I'm just like, you're not hurting my feelings here, bro. Like, I know what I am, right? But so
Yeah,
when he
yeah.
starts talking about but he says anyone who wants self custody, he implies, is a paranoid crypto anarchist, and that was bad enough. But then what really got me is he got into this rant about basically saying people who are paranoid crypto anarchists, like they're being preyed upon by all these companies that cater to them. And just says like, oh well, if you he implied that hardware wallet manufacturers are scammers who are preying on people's fear to sell devices. And then he also mentioned outside of crypto, like if you're people are scared and you sell them a gun for self protection, and it was implying that you're like a shitty, scammy person for doing this. And I'm just like, man,
Right.
this guy, this wasn't an offhanded, out of context comment. This guy is like, at the very least, presenting very strongly about he does not like sovereignty. He thinks trust the government, and the gold thing. Because the interview
Oh
again
God. Yeah.
pushed back again. Great interviewer. Hit up your boy. I'd love to be on your show. Ask me the tough questions. So the interviewer pushed back on like the gold confiscation thing, basically saying like, well, it's like gold, but like gold was confiscated in the 30s in 1933 in the U.S. And so don't you want self custody so that doesn't happen? And then instead of saying, well, yeah, in edge case here and like, sure, instead of that, he just went full like it wasn't confiscated. They were encouraged to turn it in. They did it voluntarily. And also, so many institutions are into this. They're not going to let that happen. Trust the institutions and government. And at that point,
Right.
I'm just like,
But I
dude,
mean,
this guy is this
listen,
guy is fucking crazy, or
but
not
that's the
crazy,
thing
but
is that none of this is new, right? I watched the interview.
that's the
Like
funniest part about this.
yeah, I spend the time to watch the stupid thing, but it's like everything he says is not new. Like
Uh
he's
huh.
been saying it since he got on the scene, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it looks like it got to a point where he's just so sick and tired of justifying his position. But it's like, oh well, he's not talking to retail. It's like, no, dude, he's talking to everyone, right? He's talking to the smartest pleb, on the plantation, to the dumbest CEO in the boardroom, right? Like he's hitting all spectrums. And especially if people understood what MicroStrategy as a company is and what they do. Like I used to sign up for their services, right? I used their intelligence for my business and it wasn't worth the cost, right? And I mean, MicroStrategy is located very close to Langley. All the tie-ins that Michael Saylor has with governments and contractors, etc. It's like this guy knows what he's talking about. He's not
Yeah.
just like maneuvering and bullshitting around. It's not as if he doesn't understand it. And then also, I remember Roger had a comment he pushed out too, and he's like, I want to know what changed. Like, what changed your mind, right? Because you went from like, oh, it's going to disappear like online gambling to all of a sudden he is the messiah of plebs in the
Yes.
space.
As I pointed
So
out,
it's
he is how did I how did I phrase it here? I'm going to go to that next in a little bit. But I said the leading voice and influencer on Bitcoin by a mile.
yeah, he is the face for high net worth individuals, institutions, governments, etc. Like all the things that people want to be, he is the face, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the thing is, and it seems like nobody seems to connect the dots at all, or take at least a 30,000 foot view on what's happening and where things are going, right? So Michael Saylor has a publicly traded company. The majority shareholders are people like BlackRock, right?
Mm-hmm.
BlackRock has gotten into the ETF business. They're buying Bitcoin, right? And BlackRock, is just it's essentially the investment arm of the U.S. government, you know. And the thing that Saylor's trying to do is like, all right, if they understand that the only way out of the situation is to print, or currency creation on a massive scale, then you know that's what they're going to do, and they're going to profit off of it. You know, and all of this comes into this the scope, right, or this Venn diagram of like where the plebs are, where the institutions are, where the nation states are, where the countries are, and it's like none of this actually ends up boding well. And I've been writing about this for quite some time, and my
Mm-hmm.
next article it's going to be out on Monday, which talks about BRICS and how pushing for a Bitcoin strategic reserve in the U.S. is almost like they have to do it, but I don't think it's going to work as well as people hope, because the things that everybody talks about, and the more U.S. centric Bitcoin becomes, thanks to people like Saylor and BlackRock and etc. It's like the more the world actually pushes away from it. Why isn't BRICS using Bitcoin in their trade and commerce, especially when Russia is one of the larger miners next to China, because China's still mining Bitcoin, right?
Yeah, they never really
Um,
stopped.
yeah, they never really stopped. And the thing is, like, but they're not using it, because most of these large institutions, U.S. based institutions, have a lot of hands on them, right? Like, so like Marathon Digital, complying with OFAC, and they got heat for it, but they still do it. You know, they still comply in sanction addresses and freezes. And I mean, the more Bitcoin gets intertwined with U.S. financial policy, the more restrictions things get. And people don't seem to understand that. It's like, okay, Michael Saylor is trying to position his company so that, oh, he's playing 5D chess. Like, no, dude, this guy's not even playing tic tac toe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, essentially, he's playing Minesweeper right now. He's just trying to avoid getting into another, explosion zone with the IRS or the regulators, and he's trying to profit off this too. But essentially, the people on the board are also calling the shots for him, right? This guy's not exactly autonomous. So
Yeah.
it's just really interesting, like how narrow the scopes are with Bitcoiners or maxis. I'm going to say maxis specifically. Like, they don't seem to get that, and that's the most frustrating part. It's like, no, you have a chance to use your Bitcoin for the betterment of society.
Mm-hmm.
You know, things can change at the protocol level, but a lot of it has to come from pressure. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of pressure, and there has to be real risks and consequences. But I think instead people have just sided on, well, let's let government, approve this coin, this asset, and let's let the institutions handle it because we're too stupid to handle it. That's essentially the way things are going. It's like, no, man, like, you don't get it. It gets worse. The more you ingrain, like Dennis Porter, hey man, for I don't know if you ever listen to this podcast, but the
No.
work you're doing
I'm not.
is yeah, the,
Yeah.
the work you're doing is not as beneficial as you think. I'm
Well,
sorry, man.
that's what I'm saying is beneficial to whom? Like, to what it's portrayed to the average person. Definitely agree, but he might have his own agenda, you know?
Yeah, I mean, policy posters always, I mean, they have something that they want, right? And there's self-interest, and I'm not going to knock people for having self-interest. But the supporters are around. It's like, dude, you don't understand. If this thing starts getting like fine-tuned into the fibers of the society, like, there's regulation that comes back to bite you in the ass.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not ready to comply with that, if you're not ready to fight against that, like, what the fuck are you doing? You're wasting your time, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And one thing's for sure, like, we talk about the 5D chess or 4D chess or whatever. Um,
God.
the 4D, like, I have seen very few people who I would say do something like that. Um, One of the few people would be like probably Elon Musk, because he he is a few steps ahead of where he's going to do. Like, every action, there's like a few steps ahead, and when it comes true, you're like,
Mm.
oh yeah, he was thinking about that all along. Sailor, not so much. He's like, checkers. He's more of a checkers player, right? As
No,
far
because
as
that's checkers still takes a bit of IQ in it, to play that
but
game.
here's the thing. He was just like a dumb. I don't even know what MicroStrategy does or did or whatever back in the day. I hear that like he got in trouble for losing everyone's money or something. Whatever. I don't care. But at some point he realized, oh, Bitcoin in the community is something I can take advantage of. And that does require a certain amount of intellect and evil, I guess, right? But at some point he's just like, you know what? I'm going to keep buying this Bitcoin and pump my company with it, and I'm going to become an influencer, figure it out. He didn't just fall into this. He decided, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to use that to associate myself with this asset, and use this asset to build my company. And then to the point where now you have like his audience, the maximalist, almost 50-50 Bitcoin and MicroStrategy stock. And that is like the craziest thing. Idiots can't pull that off, by the way. It doesn't mean he's the most intelligent, but that is a very like, he just says, oh, opportunity. I'm going to pretend like I am Bitcoin. And the biggest thing for Bitcoin, people like to say I'm buying Bitcoin because that's the one thing that everyone resonates with is the number goes up. People like that. So if I'm Mr. Conviction and boldness and number go up, people will trust me. And then they will tie my company to it. And then they will buy my company stock because they'll think, oh, it's undervalued because he owns this much Bitcoin. And so therefore I haven't done the math, but let's just buy his company stock because that's cheap Bitcoin because everyone's seeking these freaking degens are just as much as they say the casino's like shitcoiners. They're like, no.
Yeah.
And he figured it out, and it's working out great for him so far. So
let me, I'll boil it down to it's even simpler. So he was on the What Bitcoin Did podcast,
yeah,
and he spilled it out, right? And he's like, he has a lot of money, or MicroStrategy has billions of dollars in cash that they don't know what to do with, right? They can't put it in stock because of whatever. And he's just looking for a place to store it because every year it's losing value. Okay, that doesn't sound like a really hard move, right? He didn't want to go into gold because gold just sounded really boring. And he's a technologist, so Bitcoin just looks attractive, right?
yeah,
And then the narrative around Bitcoin is that, oh, if you buy it, you become intelligent and awakened and aware. And he just kind of fell for it. That's it. That's all he did. And then he found a way to leverage trade, essentially, which all the maxis are like, don't ever leverage your Bitcoin. Don't look for yield. That's exactly what he's doing.
yeah,
He bought Bitcoin with borrowed money, and then he borrows money again, to buy more Bitcoin, and Bitcoin rises in value, takes collateral loans, and cycles the whole. Dude, it's you could do that with gold, right?
yeah. Just
You can do
easier
that,
with Bitcoin.
Yeah, super easy. And it's like this
Today.
dude is not a genius. It's very, very simple and basic. You just have to cut through the word salad. It takes a couple listenings, but then when you hear the pattern of what he says and how he says it and why he says it, it's like, no, dude, he's just a guy who doesn't know how to consolidate his thoughts. That's it. He just runs his mouth. He's like a chat GPT that doesn't have a proper prompt.
Yeah, sort of. Let me see.
It's an insult to chat GPT. Sorry, Sam.
Hold on a second. It seems like the stream might have just like ended.
Michael
Pretty
Saylor heard
strange.
us.
Damn.
He heard us.
Yeah, it's very strange. He just decided to give me the boot. Just check this out real quick. But we're still recording this thing, so the recorded version will just be put up. But yeah, very strange. We're still live on Odysee.
Hooray! Odysee rocks.
Yeah, they've been around for a while. Let me just post. Let's see if the stream isn't going on other channels. Use Odysee. Okay, so let me just say that in here. I can't believe. Yeah. Anyway, annoying stuff. The stream thing just kicked out on me, but that's fine. I mean, it was so I was using Restream to stream, right? From from OBS and that split it between the two, right, between X and YouTube, and that thing just like ended, just abruptly, at like 40 minutes in. I'm like, what? And but I have another stream plugin from here that's going to Odysee. So it's like literally the one thing fell, but then the other one's going there, and then the third one's the recording. So the live show part of this is going to be the recording only. let me actually edit this thing here to change the link to the Odysee link. But yeah, all will be. This is one of those reasons why I always like to do non-live shows, but then people just were just like really into like, oh yeah, they just love the live energy and it's fun. So I'm an unwilling
This
streamer
is fun.
is my point. Um, but yeah, so we'll just carry on with this thing. Um, I'll just show my post, of course, because so I said Michael Saylor, the leading voice influencer in Bitcoin, says you don't have to self custody, you should trust government, blah blah blah. And he just said anyone who continues to support this bad actor remains conveniently silent on this can safely be called an enabler of this travesty. And I said Bitcoin is completely dead inside. Who cares what happens to the price next? Which is a little like dramatic, but it's not like I don't believe that kind of, you know. So, also, I have to just give a quick shout out to this post here. I'm at like 93,000 views or something like that, and I want it to get to 100,000 views. And if you want to help a boy out and go favorite that to just pump it, there's no reason other than like my own like compulsive like I just want to see it to get to 100K. But if you want to help the
Yeah.
stupid vanity metric for that, you can. But yeah, it is kind of funny how like a lot of people were just really not like the amount of cuckery was crazy. I don't know if does YouTube. Well, we're not live on YouTube right now anyway. But do they detect the word cuckery anyway? Anyway,
I don't know.
it's probably a
I don't
town in
care.
Ireland or something like that, you know. So, but the point is, yeah, I expected people to just roll over, and they
Yeah.
kind of did, but not enough. A lot of people got really pissed off at him, like people who were
Mhm.
shilling him before got pissed off. You saw that, right?
And yeah, rightly so.
Uh huh.
Like, I mean, people who have a brand. I mean, Vitalik Buterin came out and was like, "This dude is batshit crazy," right?
Yeah,
And
but
I don't.
Vitalik's not a maxi. That's the other thing.
Doesn't
Like,
matter. I mean, these are people who are in the space, and it's like, hey, he kind of knows what he's talking about here, right? And then there are other people too, maxis that came out and condemned him. I know in Noster he was not popular. That was for sure. He was not a fan favorite. There's some toxic maxis out there, and I mean
oh
very
really?
OG
Oh, that's what I thought.
2012. Yeah, I mean with OG maxis, they are not thrilled with this guy, and they can see the bullshit. It's like, no, this dude is talking straight out his ass. That's it.
Yeah.
I
Uh,
think Sailor showed his colors. That capitulation post. Oh, I support this. Is like
yeah.
that.
Well, let's throw that up on the screen real quick because that's it is funny because he was shitty about his opposition to self custody. He was like, well, I don't think, and I knew he was sneering and mean talking like he was really arrogant, very arrogant
Yeah.
in the thing. And now he comes back and says, I support self custody for those willing and able, the right to self custody for all, and freedom to choose a form of custody or and custody. He still has to go back there. For individuals and institutions globally, Bitcoin benefits from all forms of investment, all types of entities, and should welcome everyone, even those paranoid crypto anarchists you just shit on for like. And then the top comment that's showing for me just because it's from me. I posted capitulation, but you showed your true colors. That got a lot of views. So, yeah, he
Well, because it's
capitulated.
true.
He
Yeah.
had to retain his Bitcoin influencer status, so he had to circle back and be like, "Ah." And I think here's the sad part: the people pissed off at him, I don't think are pissed off anymore now. I think they're like, good, that's good enough, and I'm not.
Yeah. He's like, oh, you're a good troll. You know, you're a good lad. You did
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
I mean, it's just unbelievable. Sometimes it's like I. Here's the thing. I realized people, and a while ago, right? long time ago, but I mean confirmations every now and then or reaffirmations. Like people don't read at all.
The South Park,
Recent,
the whole what human sentai pad one. Why can't it read? Yeah.
yeah, it's ridiculous. Like for example, everybody talks about the block size wars,
Uh huh.
right? And then they want to quote, or point to things that happened in the block size wars. But then you read the block size wars and you realize, like, wait a minute, this whole thing's a confession. This isn't like in favor of what everybody says is happening. It's like that's fucking crazy.
Uh,
Um, Hijacking Bitcoin, the book you have on the back of your shelf, right? Nobody's
great, great
barely
book. Haven't
anybody's
read
read
it, but
that.
great book. I will read it at some
It is
point,
an
but like I just was there the whole time, so it's like it's kind of like if I read like I can't stand to read my own writing sometimes because my brain can't absorb it because I already know it. I already put it out there, so it's like skip over that.
it's all right. It's one thing that there's some leeway there, like if
Yeah.
you live through it and right?
So
But what I'm
I gotta
saying is
get a
like for
tissue.
most,
Keep ranting in my stead while I go do that. I'll still hear you.
yeah, sure. So I mean, the thing is, most for people who live through it, okay, you get a pass. You don't have to read it. You were there, right? You saw Moses come down from the hill with the Ten Commandments. Fine. But for the average everyday pleb, right? The ones who like to comment and say, "Oh, this happened with Block Size Wars. Oh, Roger Veer this. Oh, Cobra that. Blah 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 blah," or they don't even know what the fuck they're talking about. Have never read it. Have never read the emails. Have never, seen the chats from the Dragon's Den. They've never like watched the interviews, right? I mean, it's just it's unbelievable. At the same time, I get it. There's a girth of information to sort through, and unless you have like the ambition to want to sort through it all, I mean, I got through as much as I could, but it's like people just don't want to read it. I mean, it's like churchgoers who don't read the Bible, right? Or people who are going, yeah, yeah, exactly. So, but it's like, yeah, but it's like people who are going to vote based on what they see on either the mainstream media or social media, not because they read through the policies, not because they keep tabs on what's happening in Congress or the Senate or what's happening in their local chambers in their cities. It's the blind leading the blind. Everybody's going on their own gossip protocol. Fucking ridiculous. Absolutely insane. And you try as best as you possibly can to post reason, and people are like, "Oh, you're a shitcoiner. Oh, you're a scammer. You're a grifter. You're this or that." Right? Like I posted. I have to say, I love it when things like this do happen because it makes memeing that much easier. It's wonderful. The moment of inspiration is just all cylinders are firing. But I posted this one where you have Roger Ver on one side, Michael Saylor on the other, and it's amazing how people go, "Oh yeah, well, he's a failed used car salesman." Like, dude, did you ever listen to what Rogers ever had to say? It's like, hey, economic freedom for people. That's a good thing. More economic freedom means life improves, things get better. Instead, everybody wants to fall around with the dude who's saying, well, if you leverage your Bitcoin and do this and blah, 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 let me spill out more verbal ejaculation on people, you'll be rich, you know? And uh, you can't take people seriously online to start with. And doubly so when it comes to things of money and voting. it's just, it's a circus. Enjoy the show. Yeah. Mm, yeah. Yeah. And I mean, Roger speaks with the vernacular of the everyday person. Like he's not trying to speak to you like some college professor going for your PhD. I mean, that's the difference is you can articulate an idea simply, you understand the idea. But if you have to go through this word vomit, then you clearly don't understand what you're talking about. It's smoke and mirrors. And that's the thing about Sailor that really kind of that irks me and how so many people fall for it. Like, dude can rant for hours. Like there was one time there was somebody from the Mises Institute. He's a local Tampa dude, and I wanted to listen in on that three-way between him, Safe, and Michael Saylor. And I'm like, okay, you have somebody from the Mises Institute who's very well knowledgeable, with the Austrians and how they approach economics. And then you have Safe, who's, he's kind of come up with his own version of it. Some of it's, malleable, some of it's a little questionable. And then you have Sailor, who's just like, okay, you've read some of the basic topics, but it doesn't seem like you understand what the Austrians actually, believed in terms of
Oh,
money how money and government, operate with society and people, you know.
yeah,
So, but he talked. If I was to put percentages, Sailor talked maybe like 50% of the time, and then between Safe and the Mises Institute, they're split, 25 each.
yeah. They just let him go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So,
I have to say, it's been one of the most understandable but still disappointing things is the way like crypto nerds got into crypto, like crypto anarchists, cypherpunks, super early adopters, all that stuff, and they understand, and then they all fight it out over like, oh, which way is the best, etc. When crypto started to get into the mainstream, but not the mainstream, I would call it the liberty mainstream. These are people like the again Mises Institute, libertarian think tanks, regular like politicians and stuff. They have no idea what they're talking about with this. And then they just say like, "Oh, people talk about Bitcoin the most, and they use these freedom terms." And then they just like are along for the ride. And then they're like, "Oh, Bitcoin must be freedom thingy." So the Sailor guy is the leading voice on this. So let's just have him on, and I guess take what he says at face value. And they just sort of like go on with this maxi
oh yeah, it's
nonsense. And now they think about
yeah,
a
because that's,
Bitcoin
that's the thing.
strategic reserve is the best way to advance liberty and end the Federal Reserve's power. And like just because that's all they got and they won't investigate or think critically, which is disappointing.
Okay, so here's the take, right? I get it. In some ways, Federal Reserve is a private entity, right?
Hmm.
It's not really part of
Allegedly.
the U.S. government, allegedly. So, I mean, but they're so intertwined. I
Hmm.
mean, but let's set that aside and let's go with this other idea. Okay, Federal Reserve, private entity, and the government is the public and the people, and that needs to have some way of separating itself from business, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because essentially, what the Federal Reserve and the U.S. government is that's fascism to a core. So, all right, I can entertain that idea, splitting the two, right? Where now the money is separate from this entity that essentially is privatized in the state, but then you have all this policy that has to get enforced, and then how do you regulate that, when it comes to the public sector, right? And I don't think people have thought through what the complications of that is for the government, or the consequences that's going to happen
Mm-hmm.
to the individuals because of said, compliance standards that have to get met. And people forget, it's like, okay, governments, it's just talking nation states, right? On that level, you know, governments will put pressure, networks like Swift,
Mm-hmm.
or use levies on people's homes and assets, right, to get what they want. So, I mean, essentially, what you're doing is you're stepping out of the frying pan and into the fire. You're going from, the possibility of, okay, this private entity that you can sort of have consequences put on them, to now the government is going to be the one enforcing all this stuff. And now you're going into violence, right? The state coercion and pressure and all that stuff. It's like, it doesn't get better. Fine. Bitcoin strategic reserve, because you don't want the Federal Reserve, handling the money. Congress is going to have to start managing the budgets. But then you look at Congress and what do they do, right? So the whole thing is just, fucked, top, to bottom.
That's a great way of
And
recapping all the stuff going on with government. Is the whole thing is just fucked.
this
Yeah.
it's all fucked, right? There's really no you. I mean, look, Argentina was what 100 years in the shitter, and then Milei finally came around and started cutting
That
ruthlessly
guy's
and
crazy.
relentlessly.
That guy's not well in
He
the
is.
head, and we have to be thankful for that. He's a little, and it's funny. Is like I think his like previous his career was like a tantric sex therapist or something like that. He did some like he's a freaky guy. He's like, and he looks like a werewolf. Like this guy is such a weirdo, but he's the weirdo we need, right? He does everything we need. He's like I don't believe almost all the stuff he's done. Like I'm like, is that just a headline or did he really pull that stuff off? Like, wow, he fired how many
I
people? you know?
Yeah. The thing is, I mean, there's the Whitney Webb and Mark Goodwin, points of to be aware of with
Mm-hmm.
Millet and what's going on in Argentina. So, I mean, yeah, it's great reducing the government, but what takes its place, right? What
Mm-hmm.
entities are coming in to supplement the cuts, or to ease the pain of these cuts, right? I don't fully know. Just reading, like, their investigative work has been like, okay, let's keep tabs on this, but don't have too much hope. But I mean, essentially, if that's what's going to happen with the U.S. government in order to have a Bitcoin strategic reserve work, hey, if Elon Musk is going to, become Doge for the government and cut, trillions of waste, maybe, but I don't think so. I don't think the U.S. government, the way it is ready for Bitcoin strategic reserve. It's not ready to go back to a fixed supply asset.
Mm-hmm.
It can't at this point, because if it did, it'd be very hard to respond to financial emergencies and economic downturns. Because
Yeah,
right now, anytime something happens, the Federal Reserve
Prince.
creates currency, and that's how it solves its problem, right? And the general public is unaware of it. I mean, I still run into people who believe the dollar is backed by gold.
I mean, is that just because Fort Knox exists? Like, or did they just didn't know 1933 happened or whatever the thing in
They
Nixon
have
or
no,
whatever?
dude. So the way, there's an investor I've been following his work since like 2010, Rick Rule. the way he tends to say this, and he's a precious metals and natural resources guy, and he says the thing about gold and now Bitcoin and crypto is that the sphere of influence that we have, we're nothing more than a pimple on the left ass cheek of an elephant.
Mm-hmm.
Like we are such a small microcosm in the general economic sphere that even though it's important, the majority of people just aren't aware and they don't have the time to care about any of this. And it's really, really, really difficult. And I've been finding this ever since I started the newsletter to like sharing as much like you've been in this fight for a long time, right? Pushing and promoting and trying to get people to live on crypto. I'm doing living on Bitcoin like 3.5 going on 4 years now of trying to push and educate and get people to use Bitcoin as money, now crypto
Mm-hmm.
for money. And at a certain point it's like there's so much info that people are not aware of. General accessible info. And no one is willing to do the homework. It's a lot of work, first off. And it's disconcerting. I think what Aaron Day is doing with his
Mm-hmm.
workshops, hats off to the guy.
Yeah.
Hats off. That is it's a lot of work, especially to say at the end of the workshop, let's get everybody a wallet. Let's onboard a merchant. I mean, you're really having to build everything from scratch again. And I think those things happened with the block size wars set us back a decade. Like it gave enough time for, you know, the other actors in the space to catch up, right? They were
Yeah.
able to read the script, they were able to take the part and, really usurp the opportunity that could have been. And now we're just like, well, now it's meme coins. Meme coins are the voice of the people. Meme coins are like it's so absurd, but it looks like that's where we're going.
Yeah. For now. There's
Yeah.
always all the good stuff is still kicking around there. It's just kind of like not it's just not organized, and there was a certain like universality of Bitcoin that kind of went away, and it
Yeah.
didn't hit anything else. But we will bring it back. So you mentioned this Saylor thing about this other post here about what he's trying to talk about Microsoft. He said,
Yeah.
you know, hey, and he tags whoever the hell. Says, if you want to make the next $1 trillion for Microsoft shareholders, call me. And you just like, I don't think, I don't take that at face value. By the way, I don't think he's like, oh, let's do a nice thing that will enable them to make $1 trillion. I think he's like, buy my bags, exit liquidity, and trying to just rope in another big company to like pump his shit until eventually he gets tired. It's time to just roll all that value that he accrued into the company, just roll through Bitcoin, just roll it all into the company and let the Bitcoin bags kind of fall. But maybe that's just a salty take. I don't know.
No, I mean the way I've kind of been looking at this is all right. He's trying to keep his company coffers going.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the main thing is like MicroStrategy. Its services are, at least from my experience, okay. I thought they were a little overpriced for what I was getting. It didn't really serve
What do
me
they do?
well at all. They collect just metadata and intel, and check the markets, not in terms of like stock market or whatever, but like what are people searching for? Where's this? Where's that? Who's buying? Who's not? What's the demographic looking like? Right? It's almost like what a marketing agency would do in a certain sense. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and then they also have an R&D division which is testing out a whole bunch of other stuff. And okay, fine, whatever. I mean, I've been to the MicroStrategy conferences a couple of times too to listen in on this stuff. I'm like, well, I mean, great if you're trying to find these metrics so that way you can better position your company to make better products or better sales or whatever. But I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I just a few hours on Google can kind of do the same thing. You know,
Yeah.
you learn how to market and sell a product, a certain way. Fine, whatever. Uh, but I mean, you have a company that doesn't. I mean, if they have all this cash and they don't know what to do, right? And it's like, oh well, we're just going to keep burning, money due to inflation. Um, okay, buying Bitcoin sounds like a decent move, right? But is it a
Mm-hmm.
smart move? It's more of a lateral one. It's not exactly a vertical one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when you see that, okay, and he's said this a few times, like, show me a better idea because buying Bitcoin, I'm upping myself 55% annually, right? He's
Mm-hmm.
like, so I mean, if you can get
Historically.
those returns, yeah, it's like historically, it's like, show me a better business model, show me a better project that can earn that kind of revenue. And it's like, okay, you made that point, but nothing is going to start making that type of gains in terms of a business, right? Like supermarkets have what, 0.5% profit margin, you know? Animation studios have less than 0.5% profit margin.
Damn.
S- Studios make, I think, maybe like 5% profit margin on the films that they produce and the shows that they make. Nobody's making that type of stuff. It's a unique thing, but just like gold, like when gold was making rallies after rallies, like that gain should terrify you. That shouldn't be something that you're celebrating or something that you're thinking is, oh well, look at me, I'm making so much more money. It's like, no, dude, you're literally supporting the death of your currency, and you're watching the hardship of society before you. Like, this is not good. You know, this is
Yeah.
not good at all. It's the whole perspective on this thing. And Microsoft going in the same route, it's like, well, Microsoft sucks. It's not exactly a great business. I mean, spyware galore on their new OS,
Mm-hmm.
and what are they going to do, right? And if their model now becomes, oh, we're going to put Bitcoin on the balance sheet, and then that's it. Oh, our Bitcoin went up again. Oh, our Bitcoin went up again, and then hey, fuck all with making new products, new services, or improving the shitty ones that they already put out.
Well, maybe what they'll do is start enveloping in Bitcoin services that come with their awful OS. And then they get, because like, here's the thing about Microsoft also. EvilSoft is,
Oh,
sorry,
oh,
keep going.
weren't they also? Yeah, no, they were also one of the earlier businesses to accept Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's not as if they don't know.
Yeah.
Like the company is well aware.
Yeah, they just wanted to be like, we'll take whoever's money. And then at some point they're just like, maybe we should get some ourselves. But yeah, they're definitely aware. And so maybe, so first of all, like, I can't remember when I stopped using, like, I was just never like rich enough to be like an Apple dude. And also, back when I
Mhm.
started using computers, Apple was compatible with nothing, and it was just for like pricks. I don't know, like no one real used. Now it's like mainstream pricks use Apple now, but like back in the day, it was like no one. And so I was always like a Windows diehard, but it sucked. And like the XP glory days was like the final frontier. That was that was like when America was great. And so after like Vista, did you remember that XKCD comic about Windows Vista? About like all it does is display, like, I installed Vista, all it does is just display a picture of Hitler on the screen. And they're like, have
Yeah.
you tried Control Delete? It just makes his eyes flash. And they're like, oh well, it's still better than Vista. And like, it's like the joke. Like every Windows since then sucked, and like since 2017, so that's like what, 7 years. I've been like
Mm.
Linux only, and there's always those like learning curve quirks, but like the amount of like just relaxation I feel being a Linux user is amazing, because I don't have to worry about antivirus stuff. I don't have to worry about weird settings getting turned on, spyware. Just everything just works. Everything,
Yeah.
there are some hacky stuff, but it just works. So like Microsoft, however, like who uses Linux? A couple nuts like me. But like other than that, no average person is going to use Linux. They just won't. And so Microsoft has a massive market share. It's kind of like the Android. It's just like, if you're a prick, you use iOS, And if you're the rest of the world, you just use the other of the binary options kind of thing, like Android, right? You just, oh, I'm just gonna use Android because I can't afford this thing, or like or I don't, I'm not a spoiled college kid, or I'm not in design and you know graphic design and video stuff, so I'm just do accounting, so I use a Windows machine, just literally the default. No, they're not going to use
Yeah.
Linux. So Microsoft gets a good. They have a lot of momentum that is just not going to go away for a very long time, and to a
Yeah,
much
they're
much
the incumbent.
yes, and to a much 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 lesser extent, Bitcoin is the same thing right now, where like
Hmm.
it's not really the best freedom money by a long shot. Every cool thing is being built on other chains. It's just like night and day difference, and you don't have to deal with all the Saylor nonsense and stuff. But like it's just it's kind of up there. It's gonna be up there for a little while.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's hit on to this meme thing here because it's kind of funny. The Bugle News posted breaking: MicroStrategy holders band together to write the compliance standard. Yeah, I thought that was really really good, especially because like the Bitcoin standard, which again I would never read, and Safety blocked me a long time ago. Just from everything I hear, is just also like more dumb nonsense like that. So it's like it's not like you're criticizing anything real. And then of course we have this amazing meme here by the rarest of passengers. Psyop Sailor's playing 4D, no 5D, no 10D chess, bro. He's a Trojan horse, bro. He's got to say that or they'll come after him, bro. He's not talking to retail, bro. Just all the cope. It has been. There's a
It's
little bit of
fun.
there's a little bit of me that will, and I have to be annoyed by this, but for the most part, it's just entertainment. Because if you will look on my famous post that I'm trying to get to 100K impressions, so please go find it, bookmark it, and share it. If you go to that one, you'll see a lot of people, most maybe even most in agreement, but then there's all these like laser eyes who either just say some one word insult that has nothing to do with it, or they'll be like, well, what you don't see is he's actually this and actually that, which he never said he was either. They're just like
No.
assuming whatever to make their bag still work. But yeah, the PSYOP is complete, almost complete.
Yeah.
There's still enough people who push back against the self custody thing, but I think that there's going to be some kind of a self custody. Some major actor is going to lose their money, and then he's going to push again, and this time there won't be the same pushback. So that's my thought.
I think you said this a while ago, but yeah,
I probably forgot.
Sailor's gonna. Yeah, no, you mentioned that Sailor's gonna be um Sailor's looking at getting exit liquidity, right? So that might be the case. Then Vlad came out and posted that MicroStrategy is going to be the next FTX, and I'm like, okay, this hmm,
I don't know
I
about
I
that
can
one, but I like the
okay.
enthusiasm.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that, but in a very different way. Okay, so you have all the exchanges, which got the slap on the wrist. No, let's see. First, it wasn't the exchanges; it was these business services offering yield, like BlockFi and Celsius, right? So they got the slap. Then you have the exchanges, like FTX, getting the slap. Then I can see where you have corporations who are custodying Bitcoin, whether it's for themselves on their balance sheets, whatever. I could definitely see that trend where they get the slap. Okay. Okay. Mount Gox was, that was the first misnomer, but now you have like mature quote unquote markets, and I can see that trend. And yeah, I could see where something happens to MicroStrategy, whether it's through compliance, faux pas, whether it's through taxation, whether it's through questionable practices, of their custody, whether they get rugged by one of the custodians like Coinbase, right? Which is who they're holding through, and I think Fidelity. Um, something's going to happen. I think
Yeah,
that's going to be the bear market, right? That's going to be the event. So I
Yeah,
don't know, bookmark this. Come back in two
yeah.
years.
This is it.
Let's see what happens.
I do agree. I don't know if 2 years is the right time frame. Maybe three. Maybe who knows. But I'm fifty
Yeah, let's
fifty.
say 3 years, 2 to 3 years, 2 to 3 years. Let's see what happens.
I am 50-50. Like there, Sailor's not going to end well for crypto as a whole, and for Bitcoin
No.
specifically. But where I don't, I'm 50-50 on, because just the way he's acting. Is he going to leave on his terms or not? So here's the thing about like scammer people. You can tell like the petty scammer people, it always blows up in their face. And then there's other people who make, who find the right time and way to exit. And it ends up being like a softer version of the scammer blow up for their victims. But it for them, they get away with it. That's the thing. And
Mm.
so, like Mt. Gox, boom, FTX, boom, like all these things just kaboom. And you get to like Blockstream, they're still around. They still raise more money. And I don't know what like their stuff is panning out. That's the other thing is like all these things are blowing up. Tether is not blowing up. And Tether, I'm starting to think that they won't. That they will, kind of like Binance. Binance also didn't blow up. They got some headwinds, but they're still there, right? And I think that
Yeah.
Tether might be the same thing where the reckoning comes, but it doesn't wreck them. They're just like, so Saylor might exit gracefully for him and leave everyone else holding the bag. Or that's 50-50. The other 50% is he keeps pushing the scam too hard. And as you mentioned, something happens, it all blows up like that.
Yeah. So I think with Tether, I think they're like the fourth or fifth largest buyers of U.S. Treasuries, right? Um, and they have invited the FBI into their wings to monitor, transactions on the chain. Um, so I can say, in a way, Tether and USDC are sort of de facto CBDCs on the private sector, right? Um, then when it comes to MicroStrategy itself, the way I'm looking at it is that you know there's still a lot of regulation that needs to be clarified at the corporate level, and I think that's where they could get in trouble, right? Or let's say that this Bitcoin strategic reserve does get pushed and it makes headway. Like reading through some of the literature on that one, I guess it's going to take like 3 to 5 years to enact. Um, but the policy behind that, I mean, could come with some strict enforcement. So what's the easiest target, especially if the government's trying to gather as much Bitcoin as possible? It's going to be the exchanges, and that's where the institutions are custodying Bitcoin. So, oh, well, gold wasn't confiscated. It's like, well, people could volunteer and give it, and it's like gun buybacks, right? Uh, if you're stupid enough to do that, yeah.
Sorry, I had my thing muted again. I keep doing that because I cough and stuff. Uh, but yeah, it could be
All good.
how the strategic reserve works. Is they just say like, you know what, we're going to make you an offer you can't refuse. We're going to say Bitcoin custody because of strategic whatever. You have to comply with all these onerous regulations to continue to custody large amounts of Bitcoin because it's a national security thing and blah blah blah. Or you could sell us our, you could give you a great deal on buying up all your Bitcoin, and then all the institutions are like, yeah, it's not worth it. The red tape is going to be horrible. There you go.
Essentially, it's this: give us your Bitcoin, or we'll throw
Hmm.
you in prison. And I don't know how many years, but you'll be there if you don't give it to us.
Yeah, and it's not even like that's possible, but that's even a more extreme level of things. I think there's plenty of levels before threatening people with prison that would just wreck them of all their bitcoins. And there's
Well, let's
also
think about this.
yes,
Think about this though. It is extreme. However, we live in extreme times, right? The national debt all-time high. The interest rate on the debt is all-time high. Like these things are unserviceable. So any extreme measure in order to get a handle on the situation should not be taken off the table. That's how I see it.
yeah, yeah.
There's
It's
too
cra-
much at stake.
well, and in all these uncertain times, like it while this stuff is happening, the big thing I don't think that modern people realize is the a lot of people bought into crypto because they think it's a freedom tech, Bitcoin and crypto, and it's like okay, it's freedom tech, and it's probably going to go up because of that. And they assume that the exits, including spending, are going to be just as easy as on ramping, and they could be today, but by the time you need it, you're going to get stuck. And so this is why you need to learn how to use. This is why you need to learn how to use tools like BitRefill, which this podcast is proudly not sponsored by BitRefill, but we like them anyway. So if you want to live on crypto, you hate KYC, except for certain essential services you need to. You want to be able to spend your crypto privately, instantly, anywhere in the world, basically. Try BitRefill because they have an excellent selection of thousands of gift cards you could select by country. They do have Bitcoin-backed deals, and I use them all the time. In fact, you can get Walmart gift cards, Amazon gift cards. It's all super simple, especially if you use something like Dash where it's instant. Then you just get it as soon as you buy it. You could buy it even at the point of sale. And let me show the prepaid card one of BitRefill. So right now in the US, they have this thing called a prepaid MasterCard where you can buy a card for crypto, put in some nonsense information, which it's not a KYC thing or anything. And then there you go. It's just like you paid cash for one of them prepaid cards, except it's digital cash for a digital prepaid card. You add it to your Google Pay, Apple Pay, whatever. You tap and pay anywhere. And so it's like instant off-ramping without KYC for your crypto to something you can spend anywhere. So yeah, so go to BitRefill.com and go try them out today. You can create an account and get reward points, or you cannot create an account. So start living on crypto today. All you need is BitRefill. There we go. I got paid. No, not a single penny or Satoshi or whatever for that read. I just wanted to sneak it in there. Did you see it coming? Did you see it coming?
No, you got me. I'm pretty sure you got someone else. But it's true. You got it. Like learning to live on crypto is essential.
Mm-hmm.
More so now than ever. And places like BitRefill definitely make it a lot smoother.
Yeah, smooth as that read, that's for sure. And also, it's kind of funny. I had zero prep content or anything. I just winged it. But also, I need to practice. Like the COIN ATM RADAR.com is pretty easy for Coin ATM Radar. BITRFILL.com. I need to practice that more before it gets smooth. Yeah, so that's definitely necessary. Now, on the other side of like we're talking about wham, everything's going corporate and nonsense and stuff. There's Kraken doing their thing. So we throw up here, Kraken unveils its game-changing blockchain called Ink. Funny. And the DeFi world just got shook in a move set to redefine bold moves. Crypto veteran Kraken is launching its very own blockchain, also ETH-L2. That's what kind of blockchain it is. Blah, blah, blah. It's slated for early next year. Making Kraken's audacious bid to outmaneuver the likes of Binance and Coinbase. So I'll just let you rant on this for a little bit, see what you think, because it's a lot of angles this could take.
I'm not too familiar on all of that. I know Binance has Binance Chain. Coinbase, I think, has Base.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. I mean, all of them are programming their own L2s on ETH. I mean, that's what ETH does, I guess. Congrats. I don't know. It's that one's out of my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
You know,
All
I'm
right.
not. All I know is there's been Bankless
Oh
has
God.
been bitching
Bankful.
and moaning
You
quite.
mean?
Yeah, yeah, Bankful. They've been bitching and moaning about how like people are like, how can you be bearish on ETH and blah 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 blah. And it's like all this L2 activity that should be good for ETH. I'm like, look, if all the actions happening on the L2 and taking away, and I remember we've talked about this at length, and I know
Of
you've
course.
had quite the conversation with everybody else about these L2s. Like, look, there's really no L2. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
it's just another token, and all the attention and economic energy is going that way. So what's going to happen here? Like, well, obviously, if they don't, it's like any business or any tool. If it doesn't update or adapt to the market, then it just goes extinct.
Yeah.
So that's simple. It
Absolutely.
doesn't have to be hard, people. Economics is very, very, very simple when you get down to it.
Yeah. You know what
Supply
makes
demand.
you know what makes an L1 and L2? The
What
marketing
makes
ex-
an L1 and L2?
the marketing expense of settling on chain. That's it. Like if you post a transaction to the ETH blockchain, the Ethereum blockchain from any other layer, then you're an L2. And the only value to that really because a centralized L2, which means Arbitrum, Optimism, Base, Inc. I'm sure as well. All the
Yeah.
major ones, Polygon's a little bit of a different thing even, but like all the major ones, they're all run by a centralized entity with a multi-sig. They can steal user funds if you get like 5 of 8 signatures, and most of them have like 2 parties controlling those 5 or whatever, or those 8. They can all steal user funds, and the centralized sequencer, which is what puts the proof of whatever the hell onto the ETH blockchain, can also like censor transactions. Say like, no, we're not going to do that. So basically, all that stuff is centralized, and so then just like, oh, but it uses ETH. You mean you virtue signal on the ETH blockchain? It's like it's kind of the equivalent of saying I pay I pay extra for my Twitter premium because every 100 posts or whatever, for every X post or whatever, they make a transaction and put it on the Bitcoin blockchain that says something. And so I have to pay those gas fees, those transaction fees to do that. And therefore, I'm using Bitcoin. But no, because you're using centralized companies, centralized infrastructure that is just doing a marketing gimmick on a blockchain and charging you more for it. That's literally all this stuff is. And the thing is, Binance, first off, what gangsters, right? Ahead of, and like literally one of them's got to have prison. CZ's got them prison tattoos and then delts popping out, But they saw the way things were going very early, like really early, and made their own blockchain that was like, we'll just do ETH, but it'll be run by a company and we can control and make it easy and better to use. And we'll avoid all the permits and problems and stuff, and also just like let people just like do whatever they want and take a profit from it. And it's just like, but we'll control it. And it was genius. It was ahead of its time. They should. That's probably a massive reason why Binance won ahead of everyone before they flew too close to the sun, got a little bit of a slap on the wrist. But then now Coinbase is the first mainstream actor to do that. We're going to do our own L2 and basically migrate our centralized exchange that the SEC hates, and we have to do all kinds of nonsense. We're going to migrate to it, do some chain that people then get to use and still give us tons of money. They're making so much money on Base, so much money. And Kraken's like, all right, we're doing it too. Now everyone's going to do it.
Yeah. Look, circling back to one of the earlier points that we made about like things that we
Saki-san.
thought were gonna, yeah, things that we thought were gonna go away but didn't, like Tether and Binance. Uh, Binance, once CZ was kicked out, essentially it's a captured exchange, much like Coinbase. and anybody else who's playing ball with the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
So now you just have this regulated arm in the crypto branch of the U.S. government that can sanction countries and people in those countries if they're trying to do transactions, right? Because I think that was something that Ray Youssef was saying about how Pakistanis who are using Binance, they're getting their assets frozen, like they
Yeah,
can't move them.
Gazan specifically. At the
So I mean,
behest of Israel, they were getting their assets
yeah.
frozen.
So Binance ain't going away anytime soon because they've got a big boy backing them. Coinbase ain't going away anytime soon because they've got the big boy backing them. And
Mm,
Kraken, I think they're treading on thin ice, especially because they still have Monero listed in the U.S. And
for now.
enjoy that while it lasts for now. And word to anybody buying Monero from Kraken, yes, Monero is for the most part private and anonymous if you don't use a centralized exchange. If you do use a centralized exchange to buy Monero, your coins can be traced and tracked up to a certain point. But the way the regulators work is they don't care where it goes afterwards. They just know that you bought it.
Mm-hmm.
And they will use their accounting tricks and whatever to come after you or fine you or levy you. So
Yeah, or they'll use the P2P exchanges, which are 80% feds. I mean, would you? All I know is two friends of mine have been or currently are in prison because they had a Fed that they peer to peer sold to that entrapped them in something with crypto. So, I mean, it's funny to say 80% Feds, but come on, there's Feds in there. Where else are the Feds going to be? Just like monitoring, centralizing. Get out of here. Come on. Feds are going to go do what Feds do. And anytime you think you're being hard, like Reddit slash r slash darknet markets is where the Feds are going to hang out. Where people who are stupid enough to just be like, I want to be a hardcore cypherpunk, but I have, a potato, like a mashed, like a spaghetti squash for a brain. And I'm going there and talking about, oh, where can I buy illegal things on the darknet market? And you post it on Reddit. That's where the Feds hang out. And then also, darknet markets, the actual darknet markets. That's where the Feds are. Like, why wouldn't they? Like, think about it. If you're going to be a Fed, you're trying to catch people doing things that are technically illegal. Wouldn't you just sign up for a darknet market and put a little Monero logo for your profile picture or whatever and just hang out there
well,
and
let's
just,
well, yeah, and think
sell
about
a
this
bag
too.
of
I mean,
oregano and say it's weed and then do that enough times to be like, to get someone, and then one time it's actual weed and then you're like, I got you. Like, come on, of course you're going to do that.
look, it's a whole racket, right? Because I mean, how else does the CIA and all the other agencies get their money, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have that black card that's just endless with cash, because they're on the dark market selling you the weed, and then they come and get you for buying contraband or whatever drug that you paid for, putting you in prison, getting more taxpayer money because of the fees and fines you have to pay along the way. So I mean, it's just this nice circular economy that they've got going, you know, in the dark markets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, speaking of like government and dark market stuff, let's hit on this last thing here real quick, which is the beautiful country of Denmark. Breaking Denmark's Minister of Taxation, which is there any more like super villain kind of title to have? Minister of Taxation proposes unrealized gains tax on crypto. Danes who own cryptocurrency would be taxed at 42% on value increases and decreases every year, regardless of whether they have sold or not. If passed, it would start January 1st, 2026. So plenty of time to find a place to move to. But man, so taxed on decreases. Hopefully, if it has a decrease, you get a tax credit at least. But anyway, can you imagine
You know,
Unrealized capital gains.
people pay it already. It's called
Hmm.
property tax, right?
Yeah.
You have a
Well,
house, you haven't sold it, it goes up in value. You got to pay the difference on that on the valuation, right?
yeah. Although to be fair, that's just like you're just renting the earth from the government. That's kind of what you're doing. They let you. It's just like when you're your apartment, they let you paint your walls sometimes. It's just like they let you like complete. It's just like go nuts. This is the go nuts package. Is a house where you get to just
Yeah,
put gardens, knock down walls, put this and that, and then just pretend like you own the thing, and then it's still your subscription to the land. You know, that
yeah.
is
And then if
dystopian.
you have an HOA, right,
Yeah.
and they maintain and keep the property a certain way, the value on your neighbor's house is going to affect the value of your house. But either way, you haven't sold your home, but your property taxes keep going up due to the value increase of your house, right? So
Mm-hmm.
people already pay in unrealized capital gains. So it's like, how do you like it? You know, I remember seeing these memes of this guy's like, I paid 30,000 for my house, and I've already paid more than that in taxes. You know, just for his property. And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, this shit sucks. If you ever wanted a faster way to deplete your population, especially of the wealthy, tax them. I mean, look what's happening in the UK. Trying to do
Mm-hmm.
the same stunt, and you have capital flight, right? And then if it's not capital flight, then people are going to go into the dark markets and do things, without reporting. And sure, you bought it from an exchange. It makes it a little easier to find. But I mean, it's just the thirst for government, the thirst government has for taxpayer money as a way to get out of things or to fund itself is inquenchable.
Yeah.
It's insatiable. They will never stop.
The
Because
weirdest
modern governments don't know how to operate within constraints.
and the weirdest thing about that is just a very small side note is for some reason like people operating government don't always get to keep that extra money. Like but yet they have it. They still hunger for it as if it's their own. Like I get if you're going to get a cut of everything. But sometimes just some administrators just like, yeah, let's get more money for this bitch. And it's like, why? You don't get it. I don't care, but it's just weird.
Um,
Yeah.
and well, it's like, okay, we have to pay for social benefits and welfare. We have to pay to pay the street. Granted, okay, but let's give this the benefit of the doubt. Denmark is a beautiful place. Taxes, for the most part, does keep the streets clean. Is it 100% perfect? No, but the fact that there's more, they need more because most governments are already broke. They're all
Mm-hmm.
in debt, and fiat's crumbling. So I mean, they're trying to find some way in order to keep the well replenished, but they don't realize like they keep dropping poison in the well. So even though the well, the water is getting replenished, it's poison, it's toxic, it's not going to be good, right? And then the people who make it rain, they're just going to go somewhere else, and it's all going to dry up anyway. So none of this ends well.
Yeah. And I have a few friends and business partner or people I work with, I guess, in Denmark. And they're talking about all that tax stuff. And I think they mentioned something along the lines of like, if you make a reasonable income, you're paying close to 60% of your income in taxes. Like, when people complain in the US, it's like the US is not ideal, but it's not bad, not compared to places like that. And then when I posted about the Italy capital gains tax thing that they were proposing, like 40-50% on Bitcoin or whatever, some Dane was commenting on that. He's like, well, here in Denmark, if that happened, that people like we'd have like close like statistical 100% tax compliance, and like
Hmm.
people just like very like, our government serves us well, and we will pay the money. We have enough, and they're just like, oh, that's expensive. Oh, well, I guess I won't be able to take an extra vacation this year. Pay it. Like very compliant with that stuff. And then someone else commented on that thing for the Italy side of things. Let me find where I posted it. Um, about the 42% tax, or whatever. He says, it's Italy. nobody was paying taxes in the first place. So that that's like a little bit of a better thing. And I have heard other Italian friends tell me that like you go have like a contractor or whatever, they'll do something on your house and they want cash. And if you say, hey, can I pay by card? They'll get very angry and just like run off and like not do the work. Like they'll go and just like not do the work because they have to pay taxes if they do the card. And if they just take the cash, they don't have to. But rather than just be all like low key, like Italians are not low key people, you know? And so
Yeah,
these get very,
that's what I mean. That's what I found in Korea and Japan. They're still very cash heavy. I thought it was what I was hearing. It's like, oh no, it's all digital this, digital that. It's like, nope, they want cash because they don't have to pay the fees, and of course, it's probably underreporting as well. Yeah.
yeah. But so just the last question on that bit, I guess. How common do you think the underreporting thing is? Because if I were to guess, the US, I'm sure a lot of small businesses who do cash are probably trying to underreport a lot of things. Uh, I'm sure in like the Balkans, I'm sure they're big into that stuff. I'm sure Italy, but like in Korea and Japan, do you really have a lot of like underreporting? Is that like part of the culture? It seems like culturally they'd be much less likely to do that kind of stuff. Just like in Germany, Germany's very cash heavy still, but the Germans are not about breaking rules at all.
At all. It just what I've found out east is that it's not that people are trying to cheat their way out, right?
hmm
They do have like a like in Korea specifically, because we had more experience with that. Um, the system does work quite well, and the majority of people that we've talked to seem to be very happy with the services they're getting, right? Um, in Japan, I haven't really talked to too many people about this, but in Korea, it's definitely been more of like, no, it's like our streets are clean, the food is
hmm
good, water's safe to drink, healthcare is accessible. There's a lot going for it. And the thing is, this is that Korea is also just maybe a little too convenient, um, the way everything's structured. So people can see the trade off and can see the value. Where they go for the cash mostly is because they don't want to deal with the payment processors and the fees that get associated with it. And I'm sure there's a small percentage that might under or over report. I mean, I'm specifically thinking about like the mom and pop shops that are still around. They might underreport sometimes, to get a better tax rate than if they were reporting every nickel and dime that they're getting.
hmm
But again, for the most part, their society works. Maybe the birth rates are a little low, but that just happens because this is just,
Yeah,
of
their
course, my
society
opinion.
works even if their junk doesn't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, most of it is just convenience, right? And human beings, we do need a reason to continue. I think that was something that Elon trying to figure out is like, and other, you know, population experts too. It's like, oh, we need to get the birth rates of how do we do that? Well, it's not that you make the conditions, you know, easier for people. Like people need to struggle. You know, there needs to be a reason to pass the genes on. There needs to be. I mean, if you think about why is it that farmers don't have as big a family as they used to? It's like, well, you have tractors and machinery that does the work that your 7 kids out of 14 used to do. So you don't need to have as many children.
hmm
Technology makes things a little too simple. And with Korea and Japan, you have technology that really makes things very simple. And the way the cities are designed and structured, people want to complain about 15-minute cities and the possibilities of like the damage it can do and all the controls. Like, dude, there are some complexes in Korea. You don't have a 15-minute city. You have a 15-second city. Things are so convenient. I mean, the place we lived at had a great gym at on the basement. There was restaurants and cafes just outside of the all within a 5-minute walk. You know, you probably wouldn't have to leave. It's like things got too good that you're almost like, well, why would I bother? You know, it's just
hmm
really nice. But
Yeah.
again, people find that their societies work. It's much like the Swedes, right? Society works for them. They feel like they're getting something for their taxes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in the U.S., we're not seeing that, and yeah, the underreporting isn't just a phenomenon to avoid taxes. It's also to avoid like the fees on payment processors too. Like people are just trying to keep more of their money, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, even if they have to count it by hand. Yeah, that makes a lot
Yep.
of sense. All right, this is almost 2 hours already. It's crazy. For
Damn. All
Shill
right.
O'Clock, do you have anything you need to put up on the screen?
Uh, Monday, I'm going to have a nice lengthy article about Bitcoin and the brick system, and it's a lot of detail that I think many interested individuals would really like to read from this. I mean, this is one of my first long format articles. Uh, I've done a lot of research, and I'm
Mm,
putting the polish on this last bit. I think you were able to read a draft at one point.
yeah,
Um,
that was somewhere
there-
early September, I think. Yeah, and I thought it was.
yeah,
It was. Listen, while not finished, I thought it was good, and I learned some things. And I know a lot of stuff about stuff in this space, and so like when someone like Aaron Day talks a lot about CBDC stuff, that I'm like, yeah, I didn't know that much. I didn't know it was that far along. I didn't know this much. It didn't like. There's a lot of stuff that I like. I always enjoy if I learn something new and it's about this space. I think it's valuable, and the whole BRICS thing is like a left field thing for a lot of like pure crypto people because for them it's been a crypto versus fiat narrative, and then they're like, well, if fiat goes down, the dollar goes down, that means the crypto goes up, and that's the equation. But it's like there's something else. Like the BRICS thing is it's new fiat, sort of. It's a new thing.
it,
It's a new
yeah,
competitor that's not what you expected.
yeah. It's going. Bricks is going to shake things up,
Hmm.
big leagues,
Agreed.
and big league. So one thing that the two things that I pointed out over the years is one, the system in which bricks will operate is blockchain based. People don't believe that. It's confirmed now. Brick Summit has just concluded. The second thing that's coming out is a commodity backed trading. And it's not just, oh, we're going to have our own stock market and exchange this. It's like, no, this is a grain exchange between the BRICS nations. So they can exchange their goods directly without having to use, fiat currency. It's like you have corn, I have wheat. Let's come up with a price between the two so we can exchange.
Yeah.
And this is supposed to work for the countries who can't
It's
afford
it's a
to.
corn for corn electronic trade system.
Exactly. So I don't think people are ready for this, especially in the West. I don't think they understand how big of a player BRICS is going to be, considering that they have the majority of the producers in the world signing on,
Hmm.
and this is all to get around the dollar. I
Of
thought that
course.
these things would take maybe when I'm in my 70s, but I think we're going to see this a lot sooner. And part of this article is about hey, let's talk about BRICS. Let's talk about Bitcoin. Let's talk about the difference between the two, and let's get to the ideas about like what we as individuals can do, you know, potentially in this changing landscape. Uh, so it's a long article.
And it's on your
There's a lot
Substack.
packed into this. It's on the Substack. So come Monday, I hope people find some value in it, and maybe this can get we can start changing the direction, for the crypto folks out there. Because I think this is
Yeah.
one that they've missed completely. This one's going to take people by surprise if they're not ready.
Yeah, and you should put it on X as soon as you get to that Premium Plus article thing. It'll get a lot
Yeah.
further, and then tell people to bookmark it. And it goes up. And I'll a good thing about so one thing I found random side rant on that. One thing I found with the X articles is they do decently, not like super well, but they have a lot more staying power, and it's something you can easily reference. You can keep on like
Yep.
anytime people are like, oh, the dollar's only going to go up, and you say no, it isn't. Link the article, and then you get it up there. So yeah, good stuff.
Yep.
All right, I have a space starting in like 2 or 3 minutes, so we do have to wrap this up. But thanks everyone for watching. Definitely follow livingonbitcoin.substack.com to follow Rare Passenger on X. I don't even know how to communicate with you anymore because your Signal username keeps changing all the time, and I just can't even look it up. But anyway, I find a way. Thanks for being on. Thanks for being up so late. Get some snoozies. Everyone, thanks for watching and bearing with the technical issues. I'm gonna upload this whole recorded version on X and YouTube after we got rugged. But so don't forget that taxation is theft. Your phone is spying on you. Fiat is a scam, even the brick stuff. And start living on crypto before it's too late. And get sponsored by BitRefill. See you guys around. Bye bye.